So, good morning, everyone. Praise be Jesus and Mary. So, before we start our discussion, let us pray. So, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and let us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So again, good morning. So the story that tasked to us is the story that the labors of Hercules. Next. So the characters are Hercules, hero of Greek mythology, famous for his great strength and endurance. So actually, Hercules has two other names. So originally, he was called Alcides from his parents and Heracles. So Heracles is that the meaning of that is Hera's glory or pride, because among the illegitimate children of Zeus, what's hated the most of Hera is Hercules. So in a vain attempt to placate her or mollify her, Alcmene, the mother of Hercules, name Hercules as Heracles. So Megara, the wife of Hercules, whom he killed, Zeus, the god of the gods, Alcmene, as what I have said, the mother of Hercules and mortal princess, whom Zeus tricked into sleeping with him. So Hera, known to be jealous and vengeful towards the many lovers and offspring of her husband Zeus. So the 12 labors of Hercules is a story concerning, a penance carried out of Hercules. So they were accomplished by the service of King Eurystheus. So labors of Hercules, also called tasks of Hercules, the 12 labors or tasks assigned to the Greco-Roman legendary hero Hercules or Heracles by King Eurystheus. So traditionally, Hercules was the son of the Zeus, the chief deity among the Greek gods, and Alcmene, a mortal princess, whom Zeus tricked into sleeping with him. So how did Zeus trick Alcmene to sleeping with her? Okay, so Zeus tricked Alcmene when he take the form of his husband Amphitryon. So in that case, then he disguised as a husband of Alcmene. The name of husband of Alcmene is Amphitryon. So Alcmene thought that it is his husband whom he was sleeping with. So the truth is it is Zeus himself. So that's why they didn't create Hercules. So Hercules married Megara, daughter of the king of Thebes, with whom he had children. So how did Hercules and Megara become a couple? So Hercules he single-handedly led the attack that drove minions to Thebes. So Creon, the king of Thebes, in gratitude, he then give or he offered his eldest daughter Megara to Hercules. So that's why they become couple and married. And of course, Hercules married with whom he had children. So in a fit of madness sent by Zeus' vindictive wife, the goddess Hera, Hercules killed Megara and their children. So how did Hercules killed Megara and their children? So Hera, of course, Hera with madness, um, he also tricked Hercules. So Hera disguised the wife of Hercules and the children as dragon and demon. So in that case, Hercules then killed his family. So to atone, he consulted the oracle of Delphi and was told to become the servant of King Eurystheus. So for him to repent or for him to have penance, he will become the servant of King Eurystheus, the king of tyrants, I mean. So it was Eurystheus who imposed the 12 labors of, or the 12 tasks of Hercules. So later arranged in a cycle of 12, usually as follows. So Chami?
Initially, starts with 10 labors, not 12. So King Eurystheus decided Hercules would be the real king of terrible lion, which terrorized the hills around Nemea. So setting out on this improbable mission, Hercules came to a town called Crane, where he stayed at the house of a powerful higher Molorchus. When his host offered to sacrifice his
Excuse me,
animal
Cham.
to pay for a safe lion hunt,
Pilit-pilit ka, Cham. Dili ka kaklaro.
hello, good morning.
Okay na.
Okay na?
Ah,
Sige. So going back, um, ibalik pa nako sa una.
sige, sige.
Okay. So initially, Hercules was required to complete only 10 labors, not 12. So King Eurystheus decided Hercules' first task would be to bring him the skin of an invulnerable lion which terrorized the hills around Nemea. So setting out on such a seemingly impossible labor, Hercules came to a town called Cleonae, where he stayed at the house of a poor workman for hire Molorchus. So when his host offered to sacrifice an animal to pray for a safe lion hunt, Hercules asked him to wait 30 days. If the hero returned with the lion skin, they would sacrifice to Zeus, king of the gods. So if Hercules died trying to kill the lion, Molorchus agreed to sacrifice instead to Hercules as a hero. So when Hercules got to Nemea and began tracking the terrible lion, he soon discovered his arrows were useless against the beast. So Hercules picked up his club and went after the lion. Following it to a cave which had two entrances, Hercules blocked one of the doorways, then approached the first lion through the other. So, grasping the lion in his mighty arms and ignoring its powerful claws, he held it tightly until he choked it to death. So, next slide, please. So, the second labor is the slaying of the nine-headed Hydra of Lerna. So the second labor of Hercules was to kill the learned Hydra. From the murky waters of the swamps near a place called Lerna, the Hydra would rise up and terrorize the countryside. So, a monstrous serpent with 9 heads, the Hydra attacked with poisonous venom. Nor was this beast as prey, for one of the 9 heads was immortal and therefore indestructible. So Hercules sent off to hunt the nine-headed Menes, but he did not go alone. His trusty nephew Iolaus was by his side, who shared many adventures with Hercules, accompanied him on many of the 12 labors. So legend has it that Iolaus won a victory in chariot racing at the Olympics, and he is often depicted as Hercules side, kanang kauban bitaw daning apart. So the pair of the pair drove to Lerna, and by the springs of Amymone, they discovered that the lair of a loathsome they discovered the lair of the loathsome Hydra. So first, Hercules lured the coily creature from the safety of its den by shooting flaming arrows at it. So once the Hydra emerged, Hercules seized it. The monster was not so easily overcome, though, for it wound one of its coils around Hercules' foot and made it impossible for the hero to escape. So, with his club, Hercules attacked the many heads of the Hydra, but as soon as he smashed one head, two more would forth in its place. So, to take matters worse, the Hydra had a friend of its own. A huge crab began biting the trapped foot of Hercules. Quickly disposing of this nuisance, most likely with a swift bash of his club, Hercules, li- Hercules called on Iolaus to help him out of this tricky situation. So each time Hercules bashed one of the Hydra heads, Iolaus held a torch to the headless tendons of the neck. So the flames prevented the growth of replacement heads, and finally, Hercules had the better of the beast. So once he had removed and destroyed the eight mortal heads, Hercules chopped off the ninth immortal head. So this he buried at the side of the road leading from Lerna to Iolaus, and for good measure, he covered it with a heavy rock. As for the rest of the hapless Hydra, Hercules split open the corpse and dipped his arrows in the venomous blood. Next slide. So the third labor is the capture of the elusive Hind of Arcadia. So for the third labor, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to bring him the Hind of Cernia. So Hercules set out on this adventure, and he hunted the deer for a whole year. At last, when the deer had become weary with the chase, she looked for a place to rest on a mountain called Artemisius, and then made her way to the river Ladon. So realizing that the deer was about to get away, Hercules shot her just as she was about to cross the stream. He caught the deer, put her on his shoulders, and turned back to Mycenae. As Hercules hurried on his way, he was met by Diana and Apollo. So Diana was very angry because Hercules tried to kill her sacred animal. She was about to take the deer away from Hercules, and surely she would have punished him. But Hercules told her the truth. He said that he had to obey the oracle and do the labors Eurystheus had given him. So Diana let go of her anger and healed the deer's wound. Hercules carried it alive to Mycenae. Next. So the next one is the capture of the wild boar of Mount Erymanthus. For the fourth labor, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to bring him the Erymanthian boar alive. Now, a boar is a huge wild pig with a bad temper and tusks growing out of its mouth. So, this one was called the Erymanthian boar because it lived on a mountain called Erymanthus. Every day, the boar would come crashing down from his lair on the mountain, attacking men and animals all over the countryside, gouging them with its tusks and destroying everything in its path. So, on his way to hunt the boar, Hercules stopped to visit his friend Pholus, who was a centaur and lived in a cave near Mount Erymanthus. So, it wasn't too hard for Hercules to find the boar. He could hear the beast snorting and stomping as it rooted around for something to eat. So Hercules chased the boar around and round the mountain, shouting as loud as he could. So the boar, frightened and out of breath, hid in a thicket. Hercules poked his spear into the thicket and drove the exhausted animal into a deep patch of snow. Then he trapped the boar in a net and carried it all the way to Mycenae. Eurystheus, again amazed and frightened by the hero's power, Powered powers hid in his partly buried bronzy jar. Next slide. The single day cleansing of the cattle stables of King Augeas of Elis. So for the fifth labor, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to clean up King Augeas' stables. Hercules knew this job would mean getting dirty and smelly, but sometimes even a hero has to do these things. Then Eurystheus made Hercules' task even harder. He had to clean up after the cattle of Augeas in a single day. So Hercules went to King Augeas and without telling anything about Eurystheus, said that he would clean out the stables in one day if Augeas would give him a tenth of this of his fine cattle. So Augeas couldn't believe his ears but promised. Hercules brought Augeas' son along to watch. First, the hero tore a big opening in the wall of the cattle yard where the stables were. Then he made another opening in the wall on the opposite side of the yard. Next, he dug wide trenches to two rivers which flowed nearby. He turned the course of the rivers into yard. The rivers rushed through the stables, flushing them out, and all these mess flowed out the hole in the wall on the other side of the yard. So when August learned that Eurystheus was behind all this, he would not pay Hercules his reward. Not only that, he denied that he had even promised to pay a reward. August said that if Hercules didn't like it, he could take the matter to judge to decide. Next. The next one is the shooting of the monstrous man-eating birds of Stymphalian marshes. So after Hercules returned from his success in the Augean tables, Eurystheus came up with an even more difficult task. For the sixth labor, Hercules was to drive away an enormous flock of birds which gathered at a lake near the town of Stymphalus. So arriving at the lake, which was deep in the woods, Hercules had no idea how to drive the huge gathering of birds away. The goddess Athena came to his aid, providing a pair of bronzy crotala, noise-making clappers similar to castanets. There were no ordinary noise These were no ordinary noisemakers. They had been made by an immortal craftsman, Hephaestus, the god of the forge. So climbing a nearby mountain, Hercules crashed the crotala loudly, scaring the birds out of the trees, then shoot them with bow and arrow, or possibly with a slingshot as they took the flight. Wala na, wala. Next, the next one is the capture of the mad bull that terrorized the island of Crete. So after the complicated business with the Stymphalian birds, Hercules easily disposed of the Cretan bull. So when Hercules got to Crete, he easily wrestled the bull to the ground and drove it back to King Eurystheus. So Eurystheus let the bull go free. It wandered around Greece, terrorizing the people, and ended up in Marathon, a city near Athens. Next. The next one is the capture of the man-eating mares of King Diomedes of the Bistones. So after Hercules had captured the Cretan bull, Eurystheus sent him to get the man-eating mares of Diomedes, the king of a Thracian tribe called the Bistones, and bring them back to him in Mycenae. So according to Apollodorus, Hercules sailed with a band of volunteers across the Aegean to Bistonia. There, he and his companions overpowered the grooms who were tending the horses and drove them to the sea. But by the time he got there, the Bistones had realized what happened. and they sent a band of soldiers to recapture the animals. To free himself to fight, Hercules entrusted the mares to a youth named Abderus. So unfortunately, the mares get the better of young Abderus and dragged him around until he was killed. Next slide. So the next labor is the taking of the girdle of Hippolyte, queen of the Amazons. So for the ninth labor, ah, so for the ninth labor, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to bring him the belt of Hippolyte. So this was no ordinary belt and no ordinary warrior. Hippolyte was queen of the Amazons, a tribe of women warriors. So these Amazons had nothing to do with the Amazon River in South America. So their name comes from a Greek word meaning missing one breast. So this is because an Amazon's right breast got in the way when she threw a spear. So the Amazons lived apart from men, and if they ever gave birth to children, they kept only the females and reared them to be warriors like themselves. So Queen Hippolyte had a special piece of armor. It was a leather belt that had been given to her by Ares, the war god, because she was the best warrior of all the Amazons. She wore this belt across her chest and used it to carry her sword and spear. Eurystheus wanted Hippolyte's belt as a present to give to his daughter, and he sent Hercules to bring it back. So Hercules' friends realized that the hero could not fight against the whole Amazon army by himself. So they joined with him and set sail in a single ship. So after a long journey, they reached the land of the Amazons and put in at the harbor. When Hercules and the Greeks got off both the boat, Hippolyte came down to visit them. She asked Hercules why he had come, and when he told her, she promised to give him the belt. But the goddess Hera knew that the arrival of Hercules meant nothing but trouble for the Amazons. So, disguised as an Amazon warrior, Hera went up and down the army saying to each woman that the strangers who had arrived were going to carry off the queen. So the Amazons put on their armor. The women warriors charged on horseback down to the ship. But when Hercules saw that they were wearing their armor and were carrying their weapons, he knew that he was under attack. Thinking fast, he drew his sword and killed Hippolyte. Then he undid her belt and took it away from her. Hercules and the Greeks fought the rest of the Amazons in a great battle. Next slide. So the next one is the seizing of the cattle of the three-bodied giant Geryon, who ruled the island of Erythea in the far west. So to accomplish his 10th labor, Hercules had to journey to the end of the world. Eurystheus ordered the hero to bring him the cattle of the monster Geryon. Geryon was the son of Chrysar and Callirrhoe. So So the stealing of the cattle was not such a difficult task compared to the trouble Hercules had bringing the herd back to Greece. So in Liguria, two sons of Poseidon, the god of the sea, tried to steal the cattle, so he killed them. At Rhegium, a bull got loose and jumped into the sea. The bull swam to Sicily and then made its way to the neighboring country. The native word for bull was Italus, and so the country came to be named after the bull and was called Italy. So the escaped bull was found by a ruler named Eryx, another of Poseidon's son, and Eryx put this bull into his own herd. Meanwhile, Hercules was searching for the runaway animal. He temporarily entrusted the rest of the herd to the god Hephaestus and went after the bull. He found it in Eryx's herd, but the king would return it only if the hero could beat him in a wrestling contest. Never one to shy away from competition, Hercules beat Eryx 3 times in a wrestling, killed the king, took back the bull, and returned it to the herd. Next slide. The next one is the bringing back of the golden apples kept at the world's end by the Hesperides. So after 8 years and 1 month, after performing 10 superhuman labors, he was still not off the hook. So Eurystheus demanded 2 more labors from the hero, since he did not count the Hydra or the Augean stables as properly done. So Eurystheus commanded Hercules to bring him golden apples which belonged to Zeus, king of the gods. Hera had given these apples to Zeus as a wedding gift, so surely this test was impossible. So Hercules' first problem was that he didn't know where the garden was. He journeyed through Libya, Egypt, Arabia, and Asia, having adventures along the way. He was stopped by Cycnus, the son of the war god Ares, who demanded that Hercules would fight him. So after the fight was broken up by a thunderbolt, Hercules continued on to Illyria, where he sees the sea god Nereus, who knew the garden's secret location. So Nereus transformed himself into all kinds of shapes, trying to escape, but Hercules held tight and didn't release Nereus until he got the information he needed. So, continuing on his quest, Hercules was stopped by Antaeus, the son of the sea god Poseidon, who also challenged Hercules to fight. So, Hercules defeated him in a wrestling match, lifting him off the ground and crushing him because when Antaeus touched the earth, he became stronger. So after that, Hercules met up with Busiris, another of Poseidon's sons was captured and was led to an altar to be a human sacrifice. But Hercules escaped, killing Busiris and journeyed on. Um, ay, wala pa, Peds. So Hercules came to the rock on Mount Caucasus where Prometheus was chained. So Prometheus, ano ba ni? Hindi. Prometheus, a trickster who made fun of the gods and stole the secret of fire from them, was sentenced by Zeus to a horrible fate. He was bound to the mountain, and every day a monstrous eagle came and ate his liver, pecking away at Prometheus' tortured body. So after the eagle flew off, Prometheus' liver grew back, and the next day he had to endure the eagle's painful visit all over again. So this went on for 30 years until Hercules showed up and killed the eagle. So in gratitude, Prometheus told Hercules the secret to getting the apples. He would have to send Atlas after them instead of going himself. So Atlas hated holding up the sky and the earth so much that he would agree to the task of fetching the apples in order to pass his burden over to Hercules. So everything happened as Prometheus had predicted, and Atlas went to get the apples while Hercules was stuck in Atlas' place. So when Atlas returned with the golden apples, he told Hercules he would take them to Eurystheus himself and asked Hercules to stay there and hold the heavy load for the rest of the time. So Hercules shyly agreed but asked Atlas whether he could take it back again just for a moment while the hero put some soft padding shoulders to help him bear the weight of the sky and the earth. So Atlas put the apples on the ground and lifted the burden onto his own shoulders. And so Hercules picked up the apples and quickly ran off, carrying them back uneventfully to Eurystheus. So there was one final problem. Because they belonged to the gods, the apples could not remain with Eurystheus. After all the trouble Hercules went through to get them, he had to return them to Athena, who took them back to the garden at the northern edge of the world. Next, last, and the last. So the last one is the fetching up from the underworld of the triple-headed dog Cerberus, guardian of its gates. So the most dangerous labor of all was the 12th and the final one. So Eurystheus ordered Hercules to go to the underworld and kidnap the beast called Cerberus or Kerberos. So Eurystheus must have been sure Hercules would never succeed at this impossible task. So So the ancient Greeks believed that after a person died, his or her spirit went to the world below and dwelled for eternity in the depths of the earth. So the underworld has the kingdom of Hades, also called Pluto, and his wife Persephone. Depending, depending on how a person lived his or her life, they might or might not experience never-ending punishment in Hades. All souls, whether good or bad, were destined for the kingdom of Hades. So Cerberus was a vicious beast that guarded the entrance to Hades and kept the living from entering the world of the dead. So Cerberus was a strange mixture of creatures. He had 3 heads of wild dogs, a dragon or serpent for a tail, and heads of snakes all over his back. So it was also said that Cerberus had 50 heads and devoured raw flesh. So before making the trip to the underworld, Hercules decided that he should take some extra precautions. This was, after all, a journey from which no mortal had ever returned. So Hercules knew that once in the kingdom of Hades, he might not be allowed to live and rejoin the living. The hero went to Eleusis and saw Eumolpus, a priest who began what were known as the Eleusinian Mysteries. So the mysteries were sacred religious rites which celebrated the myth of Demeter and her daughter Persephone. So the ancient believes that those who learned the secrets of the mysteries would have happiness in the underworld. So after the hero met a few conditions of membership, Eumolpus initiated Hercules into the mysteries. So Hercules went to a place called Taenarum in Laconia. Through a deep, rocky cave, Hercules made his way down to the underworld. He encountered monsters, heroes, and ghosts as he made his way through Hades. He even engaged in a wrestling contest. Then, finally, he found Pluto and asked the god for Cerberus. The lord of the underworld replied that Hercules could indeed take Cerberus with him, but only if he overpowered the beast with nothing more than his own brute strength. So a weaponless Hercules sent off to find Cerberus near the gates of Acheron, one of the 5 rivers of the underworld. Hercules encountered Cerberus. So undaunted, the hero threw his strong arms around the beast, perhaps grasping all 3 heads at once, and wrestled Cerberus into submission. The dragon in the tail of the first fierce flesh eating guard dog beat Hercules, but that did not stop him. So Cerberus had to submit to the force of the hero, and Hercules brought Cerberus to Eurystheus. So, unlike other monsters that crossed the path of the legendary hero, Cerberus was returned safely to Hades, where he resumed guarding the gateway to the underworld. So, presumably, Hercules inflicted no lasting damage on Cerberus except, of course, the wound to his head. So, those are the 12 labors of Hercules.
So let us proceed to the similarities between Samson and Hercules. Now, based on the readings that we have gathered or that we have read, Samson and Hercules have similarities not just in terms of the power that they possess or the ability or the endurance that they possess, but also in terms of the experiences that they had and also the relationships that they had. Now, so before we dive into the similarities of Samson and Hercules, Samson can be found in the book of Judges, chapter 13 to 16. Now, Samson was born to a barren woman who visited by an angel, and from the conception, Samson was considered as a special, and also it is because he was a Nazareth, and also he was dedicated to God that wouldn't touch a strong drink or cut his hair or even his beard. Now, once his beard or hair has been cut, he will be weak. No? And on the other hand, Hercules to Zeus' mistress was born to Zeus' mistress Alcmene, and he also considered as a special. That is because he was the son of the greatest Greek god Zeus, and Hercules also demonstrated his strength as an infant when he strangled the two snakes. No, as what I have read. No? And the next is Hercules and Samson had the involvement of gods or a god, which they either inherited or were given certain powers from in their lives since conception. Now, Samson killed 30 Philistines, set 300 foxes on fire in the fields after discovering his wife had been given to another man by his father, broke his bonds when captured, and killed 1,000 Philistines with a donkey's jawbone. On the other hand, Hercules completed 12 challenging labors as what discussed by Chami, and Hercules rescued the princess of Troy from the sea monsters and helped Zeus, his father, defeat the giants battling for control of Olympus. Now, what's striking here the most of their similarities is that they both defeated Lion. Samson killed Lion and Hercules also. And the next is Hercules and Samson's first marriages both failed. Now, after Samson killed 30 Philistines, his father in law gave away his wife to another man, thinking from Samson's rage that he no longer wanted her as a wife. On the other hand, Hera put a spell on Hercules when he was a young adult that made him temporarily crazy, causing him to kill his own wife and his children. Now, no. Samson and Hercules both loved their wives. They loved their wives. No? And the endings to their marriages were very tragic indeed. That the two of them had strong and dramatic reaction as a result of their grief. Now next is Hercules and Samson were both faced death because of woman. Delilah found Samson's weakness and informed the Philistines lords of it, who when Samson was weakened, gouged out his eyes and captured him. When the Philistines' lords were making fun of Samson in their temple, he grabs the middle columns that the temple rested on a push with great force, killing himself along with many others. On the other hand, Hercules' second wife, Deianira, accidentally poisoned him, causing Hercules to choose death over life and ask his friends to build him a funeral pyre and light it up. And then, in addition, Hercules and Samson both ultimately choose death over life. Samson gathered last of his strength to bring the Philistines down, no longer being able to bear mockery. On the other hand, Hercules could no longer endure the pain the poison cloak was causing him, and so he favored his friend to being burned alive rather than to suffer anymore. So I guess that's all.
So we are open to questions, everyone. Everyone, do you have questions? 10 minutes ra ni taman, guys. Questions na. Everyone, tulog na ata mo. Yes, Hanilet. Hanilet?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes, yes.
are.
This question is for Chami. I want to ask um about the story. So the question is, what motivates Hercules to complete the 12 labors?
So thank you so much, Hanilet, for that question. So, as what I have read, what motivates Hercules is he prayed to God, to the god Apollo for guidance and the god's oracle told him he would have to serve Eurystheus, the king of Tyrants and Mycenae, for 12 years in punishment for the murders. As part of his sentence, Hercules had to perform 12 labors, feats so difficult that they seemed impossible. So what motivates him is, um, since he has this case, he murdered um, his wife. So uh, maybe he's guilty enough to. He was very guilty, so he decided to accept the punishment made by the king.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.